All right, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. On Monday, we are going to learn ventilating techniques. And ventilating techniques will help you to be able to do two things: make even more customized cranial prosthetics, more so full lace units, and it will also help you to be able to do ventilating when you want to ventilate hair or create closures or create that real effect to any particular wig. So, just to quickly recap, the last course we did was on creating this by hand and by sewing machine. And what you've noticed is that on one side it's black and on one side is clear thread. It was only two steps that we did. We hand basted it all the way around using a needle and thread, preferably clear, but I used red to show you what it looks like, which I'll be doing that for this tutorial as well. And then you could either go over it with a zigzag stitch as wide or as tight as you want, with black or preferably clear thread. So this method and this type of cap, in my opinion, is actually the best for, what am I trying to say? It's best for that technique. It's best for you to use that technique to make this type of cap. So to ventilate, in other words, attach this onto this dome cap, I would go back to that method instead. And I'm going to show you a different way, not necessarily different, but with different materials to help it easier for you to be able to see. So we won't be attaching this to it because it's quite difficult if you are a beginner, and I'm speaking to both beginners as well as those of you who have been at this for a long time. It's sometimes a little bit hard depending on which ventilating needle that you're using. So with all of that said, let's go over the tools that you will need. So things you're going to need, and you could do this at your own practice. You're going to need opposing fabric so you can be able to see what you're doing. Same thing like this, you would be able to see through it because we're going to use we're going to use transparent thread, but we're going to use weaving net. So if you don't know what weaving net looks like, it comes in the same packaging as Swiss lace does. It's the same company that we use, but it comes in two different sizes. You actually can see that there's a smaller net and there's a larger net. It comes in black, brown, and blonde. Here's an example of the larger net in blonde, ventilated hair. And here's an example that we're going to use today with a smaller net, which is preferable when you're making wigs. And we're going to work on this one. I'll show you. To manage the fabric and the netting, I'm going to show you how I'm going to prep, and I'm going to use these materials and kind of explain to you how they work best for you. So first we have a stapler. It's a staple gun, household crafts and things like that. It's not heavy duty, so keep that in mind. This helps for something like this. So to show you, so if you don't want to use a lot of pins, you can definitely use staples on your canvas wig head. And when you need to release them, most staple guns come with this, where you can lift and pull them straight out of your mannequin head. It's the same as putting pins into your mannequin head. It's just that you see that there's two, and you'll lift this and pull it right on out. So that's what you can do. We are also going to use ribbon or elastic, just elastic, stretch elastic. And I'm using it with these pins. I will not be using these pins because if you notice, T-pins grab and hook on to the lace. So it's not the best type of pins to use when you're doing any type of ventilating on your wigs. So, and wanting to put things in place. So bald pins are really good. And then I'm going to be using a lot of flat pins. Okay. So when using pins, this is the idea you want to have, is to be able to pin as many as you can to keep things tight and taut. So you can use both or either or the other. And I'll show you how we're going to do that on this. So that's to manage what we're going to do. And then you're going to need ventilating needles. So This is an example of a German ventilating needle. So give it some time to focus in. And this is an example of a Asian ventilating needle. Okay. I use the Asian one the most because that's what I've been trained on. However, I found that using a German needle is just as easy because the method and the technique is the same. It doesn't change. You just may find that using a German needle is a little bit easier once I show you what the technique is, because the techniques are the same. So you might find it different. I will show you guys later on how you can actually cut your German needles a little bit smaller so that you can put them, or shorter so that you can put them into your ventilating holders, because usually the German needles, they come to you very long and you have to cut them because they're very hard to manage and deal with if they're this long. And I'm just basing that off my experience. You may try this and find that it's a little bit easier for you, but I will show you how you can cut that. It's very simple. You just use some cutters. You use these to cut wires, cut metal. I use this in jury. When I taught a jury class a long time ago, you use these to cut wires and things like that. So it would be able to cut that. So I'll show that at the end, but I've already done it. So I'm going to take out my German needle and my ventilating needle and put those off to the side. And then transparent thread is what you want to use, and scissors. But for me to be able to show you exactly how it looks, I'm going to use opposing colors so you can see what it looks like. Because showing you on camera with clear thread is very, very hard when I'm doing it live. It's much easier if I do a pre-recorded video. So I am going to do another pre-recorded video of me using that thread. So let's get you back in place and let's get started. So I'm going to lift this up. And put it down. All right, so let's show you. First thing that I'm going to do. It does kind of help to have an opposing color or something that makes it easy for you to see. I will say magnifying glasses or a magnifying lamp with light can help a great deal. I kind of have that type of thing kind of set up over the top so that I can be able to see, but you can't see it because I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer to show you guys. But what I am going to do is use this to show you how easy this is. So I gotta unlock it. And then I'm just gonna put, oh, am I out? Definitely am out. Been using the crap out of this thing. All right, so oops, must be upside down. Okay, it's not giving me what I need. So, you gotta do what you gotta do. Let's show you guys. It's not giving me what I want. So I am going to use T-pins because for just opposing fabric for right now, because it's so thick, it's fine for me. I don't have to worry about it getting caught into the fabric. But when I get ready to place the netting, it's a tad bit different. So what I'm going to do is cut. So I'm showing you guys how to prepare so you can practice. So again, I'm using a much smaller weaving net as opposed to the larger one because it's the closest you'll get to the Swiss lace, which we will be going over that next week or next Sunday in the video. So I'm just going to cut this in half and then I'm going to put this here. And I'm going to take either ribbon or elastic so that I make sure that everything is laid nice, flat, and tight to the surface that I'm going to be working on. If things are too loose, it's kind of hard to get through loops and pulling things through because your fabric and everything is moving. So instead of having a bunch of pins that you just push straight into the fabric and it may not hold it very well, you would use your this, or you would use ball pins or flat pins so that they're out of your way. So I'm going to place them on here. And when I say you could use either ribbon or elastic, it does the exact same thing. The reason why I say or on that is because some people like to see things a little bit more flat and contour, and they don't like that one side is going to be lifted. And it definitely depends on what you're doing, and that will be in a much more advanced class. But keep in mind, we're trying to give you the basics, so you want to make sure you practice this. You want to do this exact step for practice, and this will help you when we get to the more advanced parts of when we're putting a full lace unit cap together. But you need something to manage. So I'm showing you with both options, and the least complicated as possible. You can use as many pins as you want, but keep in mind the whole idea is for the space that you are going to be working on should be tight and taut. Has to have a little bit of give, but not too much where it makes it flimsy and hard for you to get under the net and ventilate. So I'm just going to pin. For now. Cool. So that's your prepping step before you start ventilating. So depending on your area, we'll get into that, but we just want to know what the basic stitching step you want to follow. So I'm going to start with red thread. And I'm going to show you guys two different ways to ventilate using just thread, not hair, because it's a difference. So we're going to pretend that this red thread is clear thread, okay? So this is a good way to help practice, because for some of you, including myself, the more you do this, the easier it is to not have to be able to see. You can feel with the tools that you are using. So you want to be able to see first before you could feel. That way you can bring all of your senses together to help you with that technique. So I have a long piece of thread here, and I am going to turn in a direction where I have my dominant hand, which I am right-handed, and I hold everything on my left. I will demonstrate the other way too. I'll be pretty slow on this side, but I know there's a few of you who are left-handed and you want to know how it looks with a left-hander, but I'm not a left-hander, so I just want to give you guys that disclaimer. So we're going to learn how to do what is called a straight stitch through, and then we're going to learn how to do a zigzag pattern just with this, okay? So a straight stitch through is you will go underneath Hmm. Good. Want to make sure you guys can see, so that's why I stopped talking. Because if I can see it, I hope you guys can see it. But this is a Chinese needle, so it's a very short hook. So the techniques I'm going to show you with using both of them is exactly the same. You want to go underneath the grid. So your lace, including weaving net, is in a grid pattern. So there's little holes in there that you'll be pulling things through. You're going to take your thread, and what you have on the hook of any needle, German or Asian, it has a little mini hook that's there. And when you're trying to pull it through, you want to make sure that it goes underneath the grid that you put the needle under, okay? You also want to make sure that your needle end that has the hook, small hook on it, doesn't go through up, because it'll grab and it'll touch, or it'll stop you from being able to get anything through your grid. So I hope that makes sense. So it's a matter of rolling. Everybody's hand positions are different. I hold things like a pencil because I roll with my fingers. I'll take this out. Some people roll like this, or they'll roll like this. Thumb is underneath and the finger is on top, and they'll pull and roll like this. I am different artist. I do things this way. So you'll find your hand positioning the more you start practicing this, but I'm going to start off by grabbing it, managing, taking a small loop. The hook is up so that it can grab. I'm going to turn, meaning roll. See, my fingers are rolling this, so you need to be able to roll this either way. Roll it under and then immediately bring it up, okay? Now, I'm going to take one and leave the other one loose, and then I'm going to pull. Oh, it grabbed onto it. But you want to pull this completely out, okay? So now this is what you have. You have this end here, and then I have a whole lot of end on the other side, okay? That I'm going to leave off. And then I'm going to make my starting point. One side is long and one side is short, and I am going to hand tie or knot it twice. Okay. So that's your starting point. Okay. So you have options depending on personality. Some people will leave that on there or leave that extra length just for their eye's sake to know where they're started from, and some people will cut that completely off or very short so that they can see. So that's your starting point. Okay. So you have spacing from one end to the other. When we go down, we're going to go down in a spacing, but you're going to learn double knotting. Because when you want to attach lace to lace, you want to make sure that you are doing a technique that is very secure with your transparent thread. So I'm going to give myself a distance from the starting point on to the next. I'm going to lift up. I'm going to let it grab. Don't hold too tight on this side because you need to make sure that you can be able to pull it through, but you will have a little bit of tightness going on. Now, mind you, I'm using thread and not actual poly thread or clear thread. So you'll notice that with thread, there are several different threads wrapped and rolled into one. So take time. So this is the first thing you do is lift it up. You're going to wrap, and you're going to roll or turn it down so it can go through the first loop. There's a tug of war that you'll have going on so that that'll drop down. And then while it's still looped, you're going to give it a little bit more of a shorter distance, and then you're going to go around. So see, I'm taking this over and rolling it down so that it can get through. And you either use your needle to pull all the rest of it out, or you can take the needle out and pull the rest of the thread through. Honestly, it's much easier with transparent thread, so I'm showing you first with the red so you can see what that looks like. Cool. It's a lot of thread, so I'm going to cut some of this off so it's not so unmanageable. So, cool. So that's where you are. To continue, same distance. Up, over, let it pull it under, up, over, roll it down. So if I was pulling this way, I have to roll it in the direction that I wrapped it over. Okay, so I'm going to roll it down by going under. Roll it up. Oh, also be careful that you don't get too many at one time. I stopped using my magnifying glass to pay attention to what I was doing. So lift up through one, roll it on this side so you can pull it, lift up, over, turn in the direction you wrapped it over so that it goes underneath. We're talking about the hook. There's a tug of war that goes on, wrap it over, bring it down, another tug of war to make sure that that knot is tight, and then you pull it. Awesome. One more time. So I'm making sure that it only goes through one hole. I'm going to let that grab, turn it to its side, over, turn down, pull it through, and it's breaking on me. So I'll show you guys with the clear thread. Hopefully you guys can see it. I'm much faster with this one. Good. All right, so clear thread it is, huh? Under, pull, all the way through. That way I have one side shorter and the other side longer. Not sure if you guys can see that. Tie a knot, and then there's another. And whichever side is the shortest, just cut it short. Ooh, goodness, it's not taut enough. So this is what I mean when it's not taut enough. When it starts pulling up and lifting, it's very hard to kind of pull through anything if it's too loose. So it's probably best that I start over in this direction. But let's just understand the roll. When you start off and you grab any hair or thread, you want to pull it on its side. And then you want to, when you pull it through, you want to roll up so that you can make sure that you'll wrap the other length of hair over, so it'll go over, and then you will turn so you can be able to pull it through the loop, immediately bring it up again, wrap it over, turn, tug of war, and it should give you a knot. So you guys can't see it with this clear thread, so I'm not gonna keep trying to do that and you don't get it or you don't understand. So I'm gonna do it with Asian needle, the German needle. So same thing. I'm gonna stop talking and just do. Maybe you watching me do it will make sense. So. And it's hard with this thread. It's not taut enough. The journey of teaching with materials that I think are best for you to understand how to use, but they're not the best for the method. And it's hard for you guys to see. So I hope you guys understand what I mean by what I'm doing. So and today it just seems very weird. I'm not being able because it's pulling and everything. So let's do this. We'll try this one more time and then I'm going to ask questions or see if I can clarify if something just was not quite right. Because what I'm trying to do is not working with that material. Because I want you guys to be able to see it. It's hard to see with clear thread. Especially if it's not pre-recorded. I'm so focused on trying to make sure you guys can see. And now I can't see. There it is, right there. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And I'm following that exact same roll, however you choose to hold. But I like to hold like a pencil or somewhere like this because I'm quicker and faster this way. And not only that, I am a German needle. I'm not a German needle user. So that is probably going to be a big task for me to learn myself. So I know some of you probably are, but I'm not. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. So shouldn't be this hard now. it's not working. So how about this? It's not working. I've practiced this time and time again, and today it's not working. So what I want to do is this. If you guys have any questions or something you would like for me to demonstrate a little bit better, please do let me know in the comment section. But what I'm going to do is this. Because it just isn't working. So don't pull that out. Let me use a different tool. You guys do need to know how to ventilate. I have tons of videos on ventilating basics and things like that. So that's why I'm going through the motions of this. But really what I want you guys... We're going to start on one side. It's much easier using a micro latch hook needle as of right now, just to show you what the pattern looks like. The technique is different, but you really want to do this practicing how to ventilate. And I'm not able to do it using this thread, and I want this thread to be able to show you exactly what it's supposed to look like if it was transparent lace and you can't see it. So remember I said that at the bottom of, at the hook end, at the very end of the hooks of your German and your Asian needle, they grab threads of hair or strands of hair. And you will either have a 1 to 2, a 2 to 3, a 3 to 4. I know they can be a little bit higher with your German needles, but for your Asian needles, they only go 3 to 4, which means that's how many strands that they pick up. I have 1 to 1 and a 1 to 2 Asian needle. So I have a 1 to 1 German and I have a 1 to 2 Asian needle. But this thread itself, it has more than 2. So when I grab through it, it grabs exactly 1 strand. So that's one of the things that you will notice with using ventilating needles. So I'm going to use what is called a micro latch hook needle. This is very small. We used to use this when we would make wigs for theater. So we would use this because it was a lot easier to teach people, well, interns. It was easy to teach interns, and I was an intern at that time, for us to do this because we needed things to be done a little bit faster. So this was the method that they showed us first to start off and learn with. So I'll do it this way. So 1, 2, pull all the thread through. Then you come across. So push it through, 1 hole, 1 loop of fabric, pull through, push, grab again. Yep, my eyes. There we go. Pull through. I'm going to do it one more time. Make sure that's open. Pull. The one thing I am afraid of is that you guys are going to like this method and this tool better than the ventilating needles. But it's just not the way that we're taught. But any method that gets it done, this is probably a method nobody even shown or taught ever. It's an old school method. but it obviously works. Pull. You need to make sure that it's double knotted. So that's my first, and then grabbing, that's my second. Once I make sure that that is pulled or knotted and it's tight, then I go over to the other side. This tool is really good for those who are left-handed too. So hook, push, you're gonna grab, and it's gonna close the latch. There's one, there's two, pull. One, two, and you can do it more than one time. There's my third, and pull. But you do want to try and practice going as close as you possibly can to the particular edges. I'll give you an example why. Because say for example, when we start to do things piece by piece, I suggested before that you should learn how to pre-make your pieces. Each piece, you have a nape area, you have the full dome of the area, and then you have a top part, which is usually like the closure of any cap. And we're talking about full Swiss lace units, so it's really actually better to do them by hand, because that means it's going to be molded and fitted to the person's head. So if you already have certain areas finished off like this, just by ventilating in this other method I'm going to show you, you'll be able to ventilate all of that down and then place it in place and attach it by doing a cross here. So this is to put something down straight when it's in the center, or your finished edge. This is what we do. So we place it, and this is whatever particular piece that we are doing with the foundation, and then we go straight across from one end to the other, and this is the stitch that's laid on top of it. And it won't be red, it would actually be clear thread. So I hope that makes sense, but it needs to be much closer to your edge of what you're doing to and then to the other side. One, two, pull through. But imagine doing this with an actual ventilating needle. You make your double knot on one side, then you pull it through, and then you do your double knot on the opposite side, and you keep going. I would like for you guys to practice that actually with the clear thread and doing that method. But starting off and just learning and just getting the pattern and the idea together. My micro latch hook needles are very easy to find on Amazon. Not only that, I do have those linked within the courses, and again, I'm going to link all of that stuff again within the group and within this video, as well as the replay of the previous one. So you will get to decide which method works best for you when you're making foundations. You can do the hand sewing method along with the sewing machine, which in my opinion is better and it's quicker, because I'm thinking about getting the results faster and more professional and clean. But you can also do ventilating as well. That's not tight. So this does make things easier. So we'll talk about the differences in lace and how large the holes are, and the difference between tulle, netting, Swiss lace, HD lace, transparent lace. We'll be going over those different materials before we get into doing things strictly by, I'll include this in anyway, because I've learned from that too, strictly by using these tools, no sewing machine. So that's our next aspect of this particular course. It's going to get a little bit more in depth. Now, when you want to go in a straight line, say for example that you want to attach an edge of lace to the lace that's laid down. So say for example, I have this and I'm going to fold it under. So you guys get this. That's straight across a fold or a finished edge, you determine how wide they'll be, but you'll be taught that. So I'm going to put it right on top of it. Pin this down. And then you would really just work off this edge, okay? So to make things easier for you to see, I'll leave it open. And I'm going to make sure the grid that I see is directly on top of each other and it's not creating an offset, meaning that when you're trying to go through a loop of a hole that's here, you want to be able to go through the same hole but not offset it to the point where it's going to not work. So you really want to get the full edge. I'll show you guys what I mean. Perfect. So I have the edge exposed where I can see it. So the edge of this is exposed so I can see it, so I can be able to attach it to the bottom lace that's there. So let's get this turned a little bit more, and I'm going to go through the base or the bottom lace, and then I'm going to go up through the top lace that's sitting on top of it. And grab my thread and knot those two pieces together. And then I'm going to continue doing that down the line according to how I originally was trying to show you guys with this thread, but it was not allowing me to. So you push it through the bottom lace and the top lace. Pull. That's one knot. This is the second. Make sure it's nice and taut, and then you pull it. Even space as much as you can. If you have magnifying glass, or, well, if you have a magnifying glass, you'll be able to see how far your distance is based off your holes. You can count how many holes you're going to do. We're going to pull this through. 1, 2, all the way down. All the way through. 1, 2. See the concept. So you're trying to get this to be on its particular edge. So there is thread that lays on top of that edge to make sure it stays flat and down, and then it's knotted every couple of stitch, well, each stitch, after each stitch that you do by hand, it's knotted so that it'll stay down and it'll be attached to each other. So I'm going to go a couple more. Too many holes. There we go. Push it through. 1, 2. So your goal is to try to get as even as you possibly can, but my suggestion for practice, do this, just get used to the method of ventilating. I know I'm trying to get you guys to use this in the method. So I'll download the courses on that and how we're using these. But if you are like, nope, that's not working for me, I do understand there's quite a few of you where using the ventilating needle is like using a foreign object for anybody. So it's okay to use this, but when we get to the actual lace that we're going to be using to make specific foundations, you're going to have to get used to using your ventilating needle. So I have to say this type of thing, or this technique for making and repairing and things like that, is not for everyone. You'll know, but if it's for you, you'll take the time to practice it and do what you need to. So there's your straight down line. And it looks like I'm pulling some other things, so I don't want to pull that with me. But that's good enough for now. So I have one thread that's for the first one. But this is going to make sure that this lace is attached. So I'm going to unpin it so you guys can see. So you see that, and then you see this, where it's attached to the edge. So the edge of any Swiss lace or netting, weave netting, or anything that you're using to make a foundation with, if the holes are large enough and you're comfortable with it, you have options of which one of these tools that you can use. Again, micro latch hook needle, German needle, and our Asian needle. Practice with this one first. I'm going to go back to it because I want you guys to get used to the hand movements. And then decide which one works for you. I would definitely suggest you get both, because you never know. You may feel more comfortable with one over the other because they do the exact same thing. It's just that when we get to, I'll say for example, these are very hard, this fabric, and we'll get into more into fabrics. They're very hard to use the Asian needle with. It's very hard to do that. It's actually easier to use the German needle because the hook is so slight and it's not so bent. So that's one of the reasons why you need to know how to use them both, and know that the technique is still the same no matter which one you use. So we'll go over that materials. But technique one, straight edge, where you're attaching piece to each other. So you guys see that? That's one. Straight down the edge, attaching both the top and the bottom piece. And then for finishing pieces, when you want to fold over, you know, and create a much more flatter appearance. Yeah, keep things flat. You'll use a zigzag stitch. So straight ventilating stitching and zigzag ventilating stitching. So your ventilating points are across from each other for that one, and your ventilating points are about a fingernail distance apart each time you go. And you'll get faster the more you practice it, but I would just say practice it with first your microventilating needle, just to get comfortable with it, using a fabric that has a larger hole, so you can get comfortable first, and then transition off to this with the transparent thread. So that's what I would suggest. Oh, sorry, y'all can't see here. So that's your practice. So I'm opening it up for any questions if you guys have any. I can see. Okay, cool. I see. Wondering the question, someone help me. So I'm going to go through some questions and answers, and if I can demonstrate if need be. but I'm going to turn this around to me so I can read what's going on. So awesome. And I'm going to turn it around. Sorry, I have you guys up in the ceiling. Sorry. So, black fabric. Yes, this works with black fabric. It also works with black thread. Wanting to make sure I'm answering that question right. Practice doing the zigzag and straight. Yes, Ursula. Not one way is better or easier than the other. The technique is still the same. It's ventilating. So the technique doesn't change, but they're both used for different reasons. So I'll re-show it to explain what I mean. It's for different reasons. And I'll do that again to show you. The reason why it's for different reasons, remember the second one that I did, that's to attach edge. And then to create finishing, or you want something like that to lay down something in specific, this is the method that you do. And it's going to be demonstrated of me actually making a full one out of this netting first to help you understand it for next week. But those two, it's not which one is better than the other, it's just they're used for different reasons. So seeing to put something more flat and more like a zigzag pattern. So say for example, pretend that that's ventilated. It wouldn't be that close together, but that's the whole idea that you're going for. It's a little wider when you're doing it by hand as opposed to machine, but that's the whole idea, is just to take this part that's pre-made and not attach it to this lace yet, because this is very stretchy and hard to work with sometimes. But I think it's best to use the machine for this, and a straight needle as opposed to ventilating. I think ventilating is best for weaving nets and for actually making full lace units that are more customized and you're trying to brand it to what you want. So, two difference, but the method is still the same. Okay, yeah. Okay, Ursula said yes. Yep. I want to reiterate something if I see it. Oh, also, Destina made it clear brown fabric also works too. So fabrics come in different colors. You can use whatever color that you like. Blonde, black, and various colors of brown, which is most common. Black is just what's easier to find, but I would definitely go for the browns and the blondes when it comes to denier lace and weaving net to practice with, so you can get the hang of it. This red thread can be black. If you're using black thread, you can do that, but I wouldn't suggest it with a ventilating needle, as you've seen previously with me trying to work with it, because it's pulling so many strands. It only can pull one or two based off what it's meant for, and thread itself is actually several different threads winded into one. So yeah, this is the technique. There's other techniques that I've learned, but I want to make it as simple and as easy as possible for you guys. But the ventilating is in every step or with every point. And okay, got it. All right, and then here's something I'm going to reiterate again. Let's see. Your needles. Last time I'm going to say this. For your most effective learning experience, you need them all. I am never going to tell you one is better than the other. The reason why is because it depends on what you are brought up on. I'm brought up on Asian and German, just for Asian and a micro latch hook needle. I've been trained on these. I learned that it's no different with this one, but I've always had a problem with it. Don't know why. It's just depends on what you're trained on. So here at Wig Making 101, our idea is actually to train you on all. So you're seeing from my perspective of using an Asian needle, just know that the technique does not change. There's a roll. So our next instructor is going to be using this most often. So I want you to have all of them. You should have all of them. And if you do decide to purchase this German needle from Amazon, know that they're going to come out like this. They're going to be very long. The truth of the matter is, for some people, they find it a lot easier using these with it long, and that is totally fine. However, I don't like using them that long because I'm used to the Asian needle, and they're normally shorter. It just doesn't have such a wider curve or a more light curve, I'll say that. So what you can do, just so you know, they come just like this, and there are some who actually like them this long, but you really want them to be a little bit shorter when you push them in, and these particular ones don't necessarily allow you to do that. It may have already been shared in the group, another one that you can use where you don't have to cut this and it'll take it where you need it to go, which is about right there. But if all else fails, don't fret. Just take some cutters. They're jewelry cutters. You usually get these with larger too, and it cuts wires and larger pieces of metal and things like that. So you just find where you want to cut. About right there, and it'll cut for you. Just squeeze real nice and hard. And then it makes it a little bit more easier to manage. So these are both German needles. And then this is the Asian. So it makes it easier for you to manage and work with it. Okay? So get them all. I'll have them linked down below. But yeah, you want to be able to use them all. You never know which one you may need to use based off what you're doing. So let's learn from them all. Let's learn from them all. Cool? So that's how you cut them. Just get, a little thing like this, and it'll cut for you. Yay, Marilyn says thank you. All right. Any other questions? Lord. Okay, cool. Yes. Okay, cool. That's it, guys. I really just wanted you guys to see what that looked like, what the actual thread is supposed to look like. So you're going to need magnifying glass, and you're going to need a magnifying glass and light. You need that in order to make it a little bit easier for you to be able to ventilate, especially because you're using transparent thread and it's kind of hard to see. So that's the best way I can show you. You guys get the idea. Awesome. Okay, good, Ursula. So again, recap, fabric color, totally up to you. Blacks, browns, blondes, I say browns mostly. And transparent thread is what you really should work with. But to learn and to see the process, try an opposing thread with a large net and get comfortable with it first before you move on to the next. This takes some time. A question that I have gotten before is how long does it take? The truth is it really depends on how much effort you put in and how much you practice it. So how long does it take for you to understand and get this and feel comfortable with the technique? All depends upon you. I can't really give you a answer if there's a certain amount of hours or days, but I do feel that it does take weeks, months to learn how to build an entire foundation using these methods. So don't force it. Take your time, get comfortable first before you move on to the other, but get completely educated on it. So I'm not the only one that's going to be educating you guys on this, thank God. We all need help. So, but yeah, this is it. So on your edge to attach, and on top as a zigzag to have another way of putting it down. And I'll show you, if not, Destina will show you as well. So, all right, guys, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your, oh, cool. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I will definitely see you guys throughout the week within the group, and I will see you next Sunday for another course on foundations. So we're going to learn how to make another type of foundation, and we're going to finish it up, and you guys are going to love it because it's the full lace piece. So, and I'm going to be using both machine and ventilating techniques. I may not talk much, so just show you and do, and then I'll speak out things that I think are more important for you to understand if I think you're like, okay, what the hell is she doing? So, all right, guys, enjoy the rest of your Monday.